When Council Estates Were a Dream by Ashley John Baptiste. Joanne has lived in Wythenshawe for half a century. She lives on the estate with her partner Nellie and their son in the Bench Hill neighbourhood. Their house is semi-detached, with pastel-coloured render covering the exterior and a red-tiled roof. There are a couple of satellite dishes. In the concrete front garden, the family car is parked. Light floods the living room. There is an imposing fireplace topped with a mirror. "I love the fireplace," says Joanne. "I'm proud that I put it in myself." She owns the house, but it hasn't always belonged to her. Until 2005, she rented it from the council. The improvements are worth it, she thinks. "My dad used to tell me that when I close my front door, my house is my castle. I have to make my space comfortable." Her work has maximised the space. "I've taken out the kitchen toilet and have made a larder for my jars in its place." A sign in the kitchen reads, "Joanne's Kitchen, where friends meet and hearts warm." But her favourite place is the back garden. Filled with lush plants and bushes and dotted with stone features, the garden has a narrow pathway that curves through a patch of neatly trimmed grass. It's a tranquil space and testament to two things: the pride former tenants take in their houses and the century-old spirit of the garden city. Joanne moved to the area when she was 7, with her parents and 6 siblings. She still remembers people telling stories about the early days of Wythenshawe. "It felt like the countryside," I was told. "There were horses in the fields, much more of a green belt than what it's now become." Wythenshawe is one of the oldest council estates in the UK and was one of the largest, but it has had to endure criticism over the years. In 2007, when Conservative leader David Cameron wanted to highlight the issue of antisocial behaviour, he went to Wythenshawe. A photograph of a hooded youth pointing his fingers like a gun was widely used in newspapers. Parts of the comedy Shameless were filmed in Wythenshawe, and last year a Channel 5 documentary was criticised for highlighting sensationalist comments about the area. One person said, "To be beaten to death on the way to buy a pint of milk from the shops would be quite commonplace." There was annoyance locally at the negative portrayal. But these views aren't just restricted to Wythenshawe. This is a sharp stigma affecting many estates across the UK. Joanne has been on both sides of a divide in perception. When you tell people you own your own home, they approve. If you don't, they look down on you. "It's terrible if they find out you live in council housing," says Joanne. Joanne's view is one that I can relate to. "I once feared what people would think of me. Having grown up in foster care in South East London for most of my childhood, I left the care system at 18. I had to bid for council flats. I can still recall the shame and unease and the overwhelming anxiety, wondering what people would think of me for living in a council flat. Despite the hardship of growing up in care and being shunted between 5 different foster homes and care homes, I was fortunate to gain a place at Cambridge University to study history. One of my biggest fears about going to such an elite university full of privilege was, what would people think of me for living in a council flat? As a result of my inner fear, I shied away from talking about home. While I couldn't pinpoint where attitudes stem from or why they existed, I was always paranoid about what people would think of me for living in a council home. As a result, I avoided telling people. The stigma that many tenants now feel is a long way away from the original spirit that drove the construction of council houses. Wythenshawe and dozens of estates around the country were born out of an extraordinary change 100 years ago. A vision of how housing should be in a country recovering from a cataclysm.